Well, after the success of my Hiesbok Hawk, I decided that I wanted to perhaps develop the glider a little bit more. So I bought 2 more kits. So I'm going to end up with 3 versions of the glider. So now I'm just currently working on the second version. So let's just put these boxes out of the way a minute. So what I'm after with my second version of this glider are 2 things. I want it to be more your standard DLG layout of a glider. So basically you see where I've put the horizontal stabilizer, the tail plane, is where it typically is on these on DLG gliders. The other thing I want to achieve is to reduce the weight of it. Now normally all this is filled with ply, and there's a couple of sections there where there's ply coming down, so I've basically cut it all out just to reduce weight. Okay, so that's how it's going to look. The other thing I've done is that the proportions of the glider from the point of view of wingspan and length is that it's square. So it's 600mm wingspan, but the length also is 600mm. And when you look at DLGs, they typically around about 75–80% of the wingspan. Now I worked it out on here, and that would mean shortening it by 15mm, and that to me I felt was a bit excessive, because it meant that the tail surfaces would be really quite close to the wing. I think some of the length is because the nose is quite long. So what I've done, I've gone halfway in between that, so I've taken 7.5 centimeters off the tail boom, so it's actually a little bit shorter now as well than the original. What we have to remember is that this is designed as a free flight glider, so the extra length in the boom would normally help with a bit of stability as well. Okay, so that's how it's looking at the moment. I'm going to go on now and complete the pod for the fuselage. I just wanted to show you what I'd cut out, and basically the rest of the construction isn't a lot different to my first version. The wing I'm just going to have as a dihedral wing, and of course the other difference is how I mount the tail plane, which I'm planning just to have a little piece there for it to mount onto. As regards how it operates, will be the same as my first version. And as regards my third version, well, that's going to be even more exciting, but I'll save that for once I've done this one. So it's basically now at a point where it's ready to be put together. So I'm just going to show you the main parts. If I start off with the pod, so that's now ready for my receiver one piece board with the servos, and I'm going to position that once I've got it all assembled along with a suitable battery to get the right balance. So that's ready to go. You'll see I've done it in a purple. I wanted to use a different colour to my Hiesbok number 1. Okay, so there you go. Looks quite nice in the purple. Right, so just looking at the top of the pod, different to the number 1 version, is that I've cut out a whole load of ply from this area of the fuselage, so that saves quite a bit of weight actually, surprising amount. And you might be able to see a couple of holes there. That's to receive a couple of nylon bolts so that I can actually remove the wing. My intention is to have a few small gliders that I can carry with me on one of my motorcycles, and then I can ride to a different location and do a bit of flying there. So hopefully I'll be able to do that in the spring and summer. So the other reason why I want the wing to be screwed on is so that if I turn it like that, I can change the angle of incidence on the wing. So I'll be able to pack it up at the back a little bit, and then when I screw it down it just changes that angle. So you can see perhaps I'm doing that there. Okay, so it just allows me that little bit of experimentation just to get that perfect setup. Alright, the other thing with the wing, as you can see, it's just a dihedral wing. That's 80mm of dihedral. Okay, there's my boom, which is reduced by I think it was 3.5 centimeters. That's what I did, reduced it a little bit. Right, so the tail assembly, they're ready. So that's the fin. I've gone for a torque spring on this, but this time I've used the thinnest guitar wire I could get, and it's surprising how much spring there is in just that thinnest of wire. It's unbelievable. I've got some different thicknesses, so if that turns out to be too weak, so obviously it's going to be fine when I pull, but when I release I need to ensure that that will still spring back so that I get my right rudder turns. So it may be just the pressure of the breeze on here may be that I end up with very little or no right rudder turn, but it's going to be a case of experimenting, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, so that will just go on the end there. The tail plane, the horizontal stabilizer, again hinged and with the same sort of spring arrangement. You'll see there's the little pedestal for it. That's made up of a strip of balsa down the centre, the same thickness as the boom, so the grain's going lengthways, and then a piece either side, so it's like a sandwich with a space there. So this is just 1/16 either side with the grain going vertical. If you go grain lengthways, it's all it's going to do is split. So that just pops on quite nicely actually. Okay, so that'll get glued on, and that's my tail surface is ready. Alright, so I'm going to get on now and glue that all together, and then I'll be able to show you the final result, and when the weather allows I'll be able to have some test flights with it. Well, there it is, all complete, ready to fly, everything working okay on it. I'm afraid not much room in here to display it for you. It's soggy and wet outside, but at least give you an idea of how it's come out. Just open up the hatch. There we go. So just the battery with the receiver board that has the 2 servos on board. I may try and just move that battery a bit further forward actually, just to help with CG. Okay, and the little pedestal for the tail plane horizontal stabilizer. Alright, so my little local spot is waterlogged at the moment. There is a small area which isn't underwater, but you know what it's like. The one place that I'll end up landing is in the middle of a pool of water, so it may be a little bit of time before I get to fly this. We'll see. The opportunity may present itself sooner than you think. Okay, so I'll end the video there, and thanks for watching.